Hi everyone, my name's Peter Wright and I'm an ancient history teacher at Blackpool Sixth Form College, and I've been teaching ancient history, classical civilization since 2006, so a fair few years now. And I've called this talk Bums on Seats, all about maintaining strong student recruitment. And that's probably more important than ever now because of the climate that we're in, particularly in terms of recruitment in the post-16 sector. And it's really important, especially in the state sector, that we've got a really sustainable subject. So what I want to share with you in this short clip is some of the recruitment strategies that myself and my colleagues have used over the last few years. There's nothing particularly revolutionary here. I suspect that many of you will have been using some of these strategies already. But my aim with this short clip is just to provide a little bit of food for thought. And ultimately also, I think the critical thing to emphasize, particularly to state colleagues, is that I really don't think there's any real reason why a classical subject, classic, ancient history, Latin or Greek, can't be a mainstream offer for our students. So here's a little clip, a little picture rather, of our students just from a recent visit to Rome that we did just before Easter. You can see the weather was dreadful. It did pick up. And at Blackpool Sixth Form College, I deliver on the ancient history course with my colleague Matt Spate. We've got over 120 students on the course now out of the lower sixth and the upper sixth, the year 12s and the year 13s. And actually, that's a little bit of a decline from where we were pre the A-level reforms. So in the old system with the A-level reforms and students were taking 4 subjects, we actually had over 240 students. Now the vast majority of students take the 3 A-levels, but we've still managed to maintain those strong numbers. And also really positive outcomes. We've got students progressing to Oxford, Cambridge University each year, now sort of 9 years in a row that we're looking to have had a student progress to one of those prestigious courses at those elite universities. But also, I think particularly of note is in the cohort this year, we've got another sort of 25 students that are going on to study ancient history, classics, archaeology at university, and many of those going to Russell Group universities as well. So it's a really vibrant picture that we've got in terms of student recruitment, but also in terms of student achievement as well. Just for a little bit of context, this is where we are in Blackpool. It's got a big reputation for entertainment with the Tower and the Pleasure Beach. But like with many coastal communities, just behind the promenade, there are a range of problems and barriers that our young people have to overcome. And here's a few little points about the challenges that many of our students face in terms of Blackpool and the barriers that they do have to overcome. And the reason why I put this on is not particularly to do a disservice to the wonderful place that we teach and that we live in, but just to emphasize that we're not in a leafy setting, that many of our students do have significant barriers to overcome in their GCSE achievement, but also in their post-16 experience, but also to highlight the fact that none of our feeder schools offer a GCSE in ancient history, classic, Latin, or Greek. So my very much sort of key point is that if we can have strong recruitment in areas with no sort of previous history of offering classical subjects, then there's no reason why that can't be mapped out sort of nationally. We have been helped by the establishment of the local Classics for All hub, the Blackpool Classics for All hub. There's just a few sort of the badges, logos, whatever, of the schools that are involved and have been involved for the past sort of about 6-7 years now that we've had the Classics for All hub. A range of primaries and secondaries, and all of those schools, none had any particular history of offering any formal classical-based subject. So at last count, we've got over 800 students that are accessing some form of Latin, Greek, ancient history, classics on a weekly basis, which is brilliant because it's all about establishing that foothold for the subject in the local area. What I've tried to do is I've tried to condense some of our strategies into this weird little template type thing that I've constructed here. And what we've very much tried to do over the years is to sort of show how classics can weave through all of the key stages. And I've reduced that into 4 key elements for our recruitment strategy in terms of establishing strong relationships with local schools, really sort of boosting our enrichment and promoting our enrichment offer for our current students, how we build engagement with the local community, and how we really sort of promote and advertise the subject. But at the root of all this is the idea as classics is a real genuine tool for our local primaries and local secondaries to boost literacy, boost vocabulary, and critically in an area like Blackpool and in many coastal communities, really raise aspirations. So what I'm going to offer to you just in this short clip is some of our strategies. It's very much a pick and mix approach. These have been built up over years. Certainly the bread and butter for all teachers is the students that are in front of them and their achievement and their progress. So, obviously we've always got to have recruitment in the back of our thoughts, in the back of our minds. But critically, don't get overwhelmed. Maybe if you will be doing a few of these things, but maybe try 1 or 2 things different every year, and then over time it sort of builds up into quite a cohesive model and plan. So the first thing, the critical thing that I think is really, really pivotal is having those really strong relationships with local primary schools and local secondary schools. Primary schools offer a really unique opportunity because of the focus on Greeks and Romans in 2 of their history years, but also the compulsory MFL element. So what you can see on some of the pictures and some of the images there are some of our students that are getting actively involved in some of our taster sessions that we've offered to high schools and to primary schools rather. Certainly on the MFL front, we have a range of schools that follow the Minimus Latin course, which is brilliant. But we also have our students that go in and support teachers in their delivery of their Roman and Greek topics. And what that looks like is around about sort of 4 planned taster sessions, which can be delivered by our students in the primary schools. And this is really valuable for our students because we really do get them involved here because they can add this information to their UCAS statements. So from a primary school point of view, being able to offer some sort of Latin or Greek via Minimus or via the Greek course offered by Classics for All, the Basel course. And of course, you don't have to necessarily do this because you can contact organisations like Classics for All, and that sort of training and resource and management can be established by sort of the hub leads or by the organisation itself. But having that as an offer can be really, really valuable to teachers in primaries. And similarly, the teachers that are delivering Roman and Greek lessons in Key Stage 1, Key Stage 2, whatever, they might not have that background. So you being able to offer students and yourselves with that background knowledge, again, is really, really valuable. I've never offered a taster session to primary schools and it's been turned down. It's really useful. And I know it's some distance away from GCSE and A level, but it's just planting that seed early. Certainly in terms of the teaching advantages with Latin is that you can very much offer lunch and after school clubs. And again, something that's not being, that's not particularly revolutionary, but having a bank of resources that students and teachers can access with, about say 10 sort of lessons with resources is again really, really valuable because we have to make these things accessible for schools and very, very busy teachers as well. So I think school relationships and offering those taster sessions can be very, very valuable. Getting involved in World Book Day as well. We give just a 1 book prize to every single primary school every time there's a World Book Day because again, it's just increasing that visibility of the subject in the local area. One thing not to rule out are big meetings, or inviting yourself, or sort of asking to present to education improvement boards. That's been particularly worthwhile for us in Blackpool, to the senior leadership teams and CEOs of multi-academy trusts, but also into local authority figures as well. So having that access to those figures can be really, really useful. On the school front, what's very, very popular is the Trojan horse approach. So using the existing subject links to classics or ancient history or the languages, and really exploiting those. Probably not the right word, but making the most of those, and really sort of emphasizing the benefits to students with some type of exposure and taster of the skills that they're going to develop with ancient history or classics. So very usefully, we use sort of lunchtime clubs rather, with schools, using MFL staff, English staff, humanities staff, and we have a shared Google Drive area with a range of sort of lessons and resources that schools can just sort of pick and choose from. It takes probably sort of a couple of hours or so to run through a school team some of the resources and some of the ideas that we'd like them to do over the year. But it's very much a pick and mix approach in a shared Google Drive area, where students can, teachers rather, can just pick particular topics that they think are going to be really engaging for their pupils. On a CPD front, what's been quite useful is approaching different leadership teams and offering to produce or to deliver CPD for schools, especially now that there is that emphasis from the EEF on vocabulary and etymology. And there's been an awful lot of cut through with the Alex Quigley material on vocabulary and etymology. And I think this presents us with a unique opportunity. And similarly, I think we're starting to see that with the prominence of oracy as well in CPD. So being able to offer CPD to schools and senior leadership teams, again, is another useful way where you can just start to make a bit of a noise about those classical subjects in the local environment to pupils, but also teachers that know that there is that offer on their doorstep. For the actual pupils themselves, what I think is really, really effective is providing GCSE revision sessions where you're using the skills of a particular GCSE and marrying them up with what you're delivering in terms of ancient history, classics, Latin, Greek. It's really effective because teachers, schools, and pupils benefit from this, because they're not, it's not almost like a hard sell. It's nothing like that at all. The schools and the teachers are really, really precious with the times that they've got, quite rightly, with their pupils. But there's nothing wrong with offering to a local history department to sharpen source skills with some ancient history, or the GCSE English Literature Unseen Poetry. Well, again, those students can sharpen those skills when applying it to an extract of, say, Virgil. And the great bonus with this is that allows you to deliver almost a stealth taster. So the teacher and the students benefit because they're having those revision skills built on, and giving them a test drive before the actual exam. But then also you again are sort of providing students with an opportunity to explore an area of learning that they might not have come across before. And that has actually had some really benefits for us in terms of concrete visits and students getting involved with us at the college. Last year, we did some work with local high school students with English literature and Shakespeare, and then we developed that with a part-funded trip to go to the Grand Theatre in Blackpool to see the Royal Shakespeare Company's production of Julius Caesar. So there's lots of benefits, again, of working with high schools and being creative with how to weave in classics with the skills of a particular GCSE cohort, subject or offer. Enrichment is obviously really important. I think everyone will be doing some type of enrichment with their students. We develop a calendar which involves local and big international visits. So the international visits, we take them to Rome, but also to Greece. You can see a couple of shots of Coronea and Delphi there with some of the students. So we alternate that between myself and my colleague Matt, just in terms of a workload point of view. One of these big abroad trips does take a lot of work, so we alternate that each year. Matt organises the Rome trip, I organise the Athens visit, but then I'm conscious about how expensive those trips are, and that's why we always make sure that we have a local offer. So for us in the Northwest, that'll either mean a day trip to Chester, or it might mean a day or half-day trip to Ribchester in Preston to see the museum and the baths there, or we've had day trips up to Hadrian's Wall as well. So enrichment is really, really great. We also promote activities during the summer for our students to do. We take them to the cinema if there's a big film on. Theatre trips, etc. as well. So enrichment's really, really good because it first of all, it enthuses your current learners, but also it spreads it's that word of mouth promotion that's actually really powerful. And what we use the enrichment for is to get that press coverage as well. So using the local press is actually really, really, really effective for us, especially in one of these big visits, because again, it's that promotional aspect of it. In regard to talks, we've had some brilliant talks every single year, and things like Google Meet, Teams, Zoom, etc. make this even easier. I think this really started during the pandemic with Oxford's classical conversations, and they were really, really beneficial, and they showed us the opportunity of using an online format to get to speakers that we wouldn't maybe necessarily access. One highlight was where we had Lloyd Llewellyn-Jones talking about his new book on the Persians just a couple of years ago, and that was really beneficial for our students. And just last month, we've had L.J. Trafford speaking to our students about sexuality in ancient Rome with a special emphasis on the Julio-Claudians, really interesting, talking about morality laws under Augustus and the coverage of Suetonius. And that author, she lives, other side of the country, we ordinarily wouldn't have got access to L.J. Trafford. So that was really, really beneficial. And we've got some brilliant universities right on our doorstep in the Northwest who are only too happy to come in. So just in this past month, we've had Liverpool University come in to deliver a taster talk on classics, archaeology, and anthropology as well. So that's really, really, really useful. But again, it's all about that promotion, use of social media to promote the course, but also local press as well. And it doesn't take much work to do that, particularly if you've got those links. Some of you might be in bigger colleges where there might be a marketing department, and you can use those links there as well. Something that is worth a thought and has worked for us in the past is inviting local MPs, ministers, but also local authority councillors to meet our students, because again, it's just giving that subject the prominence and the local profile. So this is one with our then local MP Gordon Marsden, who was a shadow FE minister, and he came in, and these were all classic students, and you can just about see a bit of minimus on the table there. But the idea is really sort of just emphasising that scope and inviting people to the table that might not necessarily know what's on offer. And we've had politicians of all different colours into the classrooms to see what the students are learning, how they're learning, and there's been some real sort of results from those collaborations. So that's obviously really, really useful for us. Engagement in terms of open events, again, is just so important. And we have every single year, we have for all of our open events, we have our students that are involved. And I think that's really powerful, because rather than a teacher talking about their subject and promoting their subject, I think it's really great if you can get the young students themselves being enthusiastic about what they're learning. So we'll use all sorts of cheesy gimmicks where our students will, they'll be decked up in togas, they'll be dishing out Roman food, they'll be wandering around the college handing out flyers about the course, things that people are doing already, I'm sure. But it's really, 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 really critical, I think, of getting our students involved in the actual marketing side with open events. And they're only too happy to do that as well. In conversations with parents and prospective students, I think it's also worth emphasizing the links of ancient history or classics with other subjects as well. I find that particularly interesting with medical students. So if we do get students that a vast range that are looking at medicine and the sciences, and what they sometimes aren't aware of is that with that third subject choice, you've got a little bit of flexibility there. So over the years, I've lost count the amount of medics that we've had that are taking biology, chemistry, and then ancient history. We've had vets, dentists, medics, all sorts taking ancient history with the bio and the chem. And it actually, I think, really benefits their application to those really prestigious courses because it's building on those soft skills that they wouldn't necessarily get if they were taking maths with the bio and the chem. So that's, I think, a fertile ground for discussion to be had on the combination of subjects that ancient history or class civ or Latin and Greek goes with. We'll all be delivering taster sessions, and just one note on taster sessions is I wouldn't go too niche with those. We have about 4 taster sessions that are set up, all on big topics. So Caesar's assassination, Nero, ones that the students will, figures that the students will have heard of, but might want to explore in further depth. Social media is, again, it's useful, I think. It's always useful to promote the course and promote the activities and promote what we're doing at the college, on the college's website, but also on the college's social media channels as well. And as I've said before, I think local press coverage is really, really very, very useful for highlighting what's going on with the work with the primaries, but also with our current students as well. So you can see images we've got there of primary school students taking part in a Latin performance, a book bank drive that we had in a food bank where we were giving out classical books as part of the local food bank. I suppose the key thing is always take a picture. And as teachers, we're naturally maybe a little bit modest in promoting our subjects and maybe shying away from that marketing aspect of it. But again, I think it's really, really important that we do showcase what's going on in classrooms, but also what's going on in the community, because it's a brilliant community and very, very supportive. And maybe we just need to sort of blow our own trumpets and bang the drum a little bit louder to make sure that we've got that consistently strong recruitment and uptake. So hopefully that was useful. I'm very happy to chat further with anyone about any of these strategies. Thanks very much.